Hello and welcome to this training on how to make a video go viral. My name's Joseph Wilkins. I own funnysalesvideos.com, which is a website where I showcase my team's viral, funny videos that helps our clients sell products. We've got millions of views across our different videos. I also own Pro Creative Video Production Studio. We recently completed construction on a brand new studio facility where we shoot a lot of our commercials, and we've been doing this for 17 plus years now. Chad, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Chad Fulmer. I own amplifyonline.com. We do online marketing. Quick background, I've been doing marketing on and offline for 20 years now and have generated hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue for the companies that I've done marketing for.
Few of the companies that I've worked for or that have hired us to produce videos for them: Google, we've done more than 50 video projects for Google, LinkedIn, Chevrolet, Goldman Sachs, Discovery Channel, many large brands. I truly believe that you're one video away, one great video away from transforming your business if you know how to produce it right and then market it right. And so that's what we're here to talk about. I'm going to be talking about the production side of the video, right? So coming up with the ideas, shooting it, edit it, and then Chad's going to be talking about what?
Yeah, I'll be talking about how to promote that video and kickstart the viral nature of that video through very disciplined, targeted, paid ad campaigns and some other leveraging social media and things like that to kickstart it going viral.
And we'll get very detailed, but we're going to try to keep this training fairly short. So we'll breeze through a few things. I want to start out with a case study. These are not companies that we've worked with, but these are examples of what I was talking about earlier, that your business is one great sales video away from being completely transformed. And here are some companies that did that. So Dollar Shave Club, we've all seen the commercial that they produced where they, basically took some crazy ideas, made a fun video. It went viral. It got 24 million views. The company eventually sold, primarily because of the success of that video, to Unilever for $1 billion.
Crazy.
Really crazy. I mean, that's an example of transforming your business with one video. Squatty Potty, another poster child for exactly what we're talking about. A company, a fairly small company, sells a rather obscure product, but with one video, they got 150 million views and they did $30 million in sales, and it's become a household name. They had a similar transition to what we experienced. My very first client was Little Giant Ladders, and they were a fairly unknown brand until they produced an infomercial. I helped with their second infomercial, and they became they transferred from a no-name brand to every Home Depot, big box, Costco, Walmart started to sell their product because of the success of that infomercial. Squatty Potty has had the same success using that viral video. Blend Tech, a great example of a company that innovated, got some really creative videos called Will It Blend, a whole channel. They got over 250 million views on their channel, $40 million in sales. Poopery, another great example of a company that was very, very small that scaled up very quickly. 350 million views, $300 million their worth is estimated at, because primarily they understood the value of a viral video, and they're now producing a whole bunch of them. Purple, 1.5 billion views.
This is the mattress company, right?
Mattress company, yeah. They created some very creative ads, 1.5 billion views, $300 million in the past 3 years. That's how long they've been in business. And they basically springboarded their business using that original viral video, and they've since done many more. Okay, so funny sales videos, we're not at the level where we're doing those kinds of numbers, but we do have some significant case studies of clients that we've done, 5 that you can see right here, that we've taken over 1 million views, and these videos have created millions of dollars in revenue. And we'll talk about how views don't mean revenue, but if you know what you're doing, you can convert those views into sales.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're gonna try to accomplish this in the next 2 videos. So we're gonna split this training into 2 videos. The first video is gonna cover the first 5 steps, which are the creative process to create the video. So that's going to be the research, the brainstorming, the scripting, the shooting, and the editing. In our second video, Chad's basically going to be in the driver's seat, and he'll be talking about...
Yeah, that's what we'll help you understand how to take these videos and get set up to convert those viewers of the videos into customers and revenue, how to promote those videos to kickstart the viral nature and the viral spreading of those videos, to get the right kinds of targeted viewers to watch your product videos, the funny sales video that we're going to help you learn how to make. Next, to convert, we're going to teach you how to convert those views of the videos into sales or customers. That's the key part that everybody forgets. You can drive a lot of views, but there's a lot of things to think about on how to convert those viewers into customers and sales and revenue. So next, we're going to also teach you how to upsell, how to get more money out of the same customers that bought your first product, or even cross-sell them into something related but a little bit different. Finally, we'll teach you how to remarket to the people that didn't buy. They watched your video, maybe they even filled out a form or made a phone call, so you have some information on these people, but they didn't buy something in the first place. What's the most efficient way over the long run to stay top of mind for them so that when they have that need or the timing is right, they buy your product?
Absolutely. A lot of information that we're going to try to cover fairly quickly. So the first question that you've got to ask yourself, or that you probably already asked yourself, is, will it work for me? Will it work for my business? Yeah, it may have worked for those guys that I showed you, but I got a different kind of business. Well, I really do believe, and data has backed this up, that if you have a great product, and you got to have a great product, no video in the world's going to sell a crappy product. So as long as you have a great product, you have a well-defined audience who wants that product, and you have a good offer or a good next step, that we can create a video that's driving people to make that next step, whether that's an immediate purchase, whether that's fill in your lead information and a sales rep will contact you, whether that's schedule an appointment, whatever that next step is, as long as you have a sales funnel. And a lot of you are already doing this, just not using video or not using an online process. As long as you have those three things, I think the answer is a resounding yes.
And I would say, due to our discussion, regardless of what industry you're in or whether your industry itself tends to lend itself to humor and a light nature or is of a more serious, even if your products are of a more serious nature and your audience is kind of a serious business to business type sale or whatever, these can still work for you.
They can work even better for you because your competitors won't even think about doing that, which differentiates you. But the last question, and I added this slide in since we reviewed this, do you have the guts to do it? Right? There's a lot of companies in some of those case studies I've read up where they were sitting around in a boardroom looking at the script saying, are we really going to put our brand on this? Are we really going to put this out there in the world? And it takes some guts to do it. But boring is, people used to think boring was safe. Boring now is dangerous because everyone else is doing it and it won't work.
That's a great
if
point.
you're spending money on ads, Facebook, Google, Instagram, wherever, if you're running a mediocre ad that's the old version that doesn't surprise anyone or look different or communicate a story, you're actually being risky because it's not going to convert.
That's a great point. And most likely you're here watching this because you've already experienced that.
Yeah.
You've been spending money on other marketing channels that are not converting.
Yep.
Because you're staying safe.
Let's breeze through this. How can we help between the two companies? The first thing that we want to do is give you this free training, right? So watch and listen to this training as many times as you want. We're making this as a video, but we're also going to put an audible version so that you can listen to it on your way to work. This is probably going to be about an hour's training split between the two videos. And if you're anything like me, I won't remember the first time. And so feel free to listen to this over again in your car or wherever. Second way that we can help is if you decide after going through this training that you just have a few questions that you'd like to ask my team or Chad's team, you can book us on an hourly consultation and we'll put a link in the notes below. Or you may decide that, okay, I understand the digital marketing side of this, but I'm not equipped to produce a video and you want to hire our company to help you. We'd love to talk about that. Or on the flip side, you may be a production company or have a team of producers that work for you, a video team, and decide, well, I can do the video, but I need Chad's help to promote it. Or you may decide after going through this training that you would rather focus doing the things that you do best and hire both of our companies to produce the very best finished product. One promotion that we're going to do is we're going to give away a free 30-minute consultation to anyone that watches this training. Fill out the information below. Normally we charge for this, but this is a free 30-minute consultation over the phone for anyone who watches this training and wants that to take us up on that. Okay, so the very first thing that you have to do to create a compelling, effective campaign is know your research. And I know a lot of you may think that sounds like the most boring first step that we could do, but it's like building a house. If you don't build a house on a solid foundation, nothing that you put on top of that is going to be secure. It's not going to be as good as it would be if you had a great foundation. So knowing your research, knowing your customers, knowing your products, knowing why people buy is absolutely critical. So what we always do is we start out by finding out, why do people buy what you sell? So when a client comes to us, that's the very first question we ask. What is it that your clients are buying when they buy your product or service? And it may not be the obvious answer. There's a lot of reasons why people buy things, right? So when somebody buys, a new car, are they buying 4 wheels and an engine? No. They're buying prestige. They're buying a certain class of what they want other people to see them as, right? There's so many psychological things that go into why people buy. So you've got to understand, why do people buy what you sell? You've also got to understand, who is your customer? There's absolutely no point producing a video that talks to the wrong person. If you think your audience is women 18 to 25, but after doing a whole bunch of research, you find out that it's actually a lot higher than that, there's no point casting an actress that fits the wrong role or calling out certain features and benefits that appear to that age range if it's not the person that's actually buying your products and services. So you've also got to know, who is your competition. You're not selling in a vacuum. Your customer has options. They're going to look at those options. And if you don't know why your product is better than the next guy's, there's no way that that person is going to be convinced to buy your product from your marketing if you don't even know what the playing field is. What is your key differentiator? This is marketing 101. You've got to know why people think you're different. Why do you stand out? All of these things are going to become the building blocks of our script. They're going to become the building blocks of why we put everything in the video that we put in, or hold things out that we think we want to put in, but the data tells us that that's not going to be effective. Okay, and then you also got to know, what's the cost of no action, right? So if we're trying to create a story, which a script ultimately is telling a story of why somebody should buy something, we've also got to look at, if they're comparing different things but are caught up and decide to do nothing, we've got to play to the pain of what's going to happen to that person, what they're going to miss out on, or what's going to cost them, all of the opportunities that they're missing out on. So you've got to know all of your research. There's a whole bunch of other things that I could have put in here, but for time, these are the key points that you got to know before you move on to the next stage, which is the brainstorming stage. And this is kind of the most fun stage, but it also is kind of the most unpredictable, and it takes time. That's the first point. It's like birthing a child. You cannot rush it. You have to give ideas time to develop. Just like a child needs 9 months, we don't need 9 months, but you cannot rush it. Clients will call me all the time and say, hey, I need a video and I need it in 2 weeks. Immediately I can tell you, you're not going to get anything that's worth putting some money behind to promote if you don't spend the time to get the right idea. It's kind of like when you launch a rocket to the moon. Even a degree off and you're going to be way off by the time you reach the moon. You've got to start with the right idea, and it starts by spending the time to get it. And I'll show you specifically why. Okay, brainstorming is a team sport. Even if you're a single entrepreneur and you're trying to go through this course and do everything yourself, you have to bring in other people during the brainstorming phase. Now that could be friends and family, it could be employees, it could be coworkers, it could be customers, but you've got to bounce ideas off of other people. Anyone that thinks that they can just brainstorming in a vacuum and sit down, shut themselves away and come up with the very best idea is missing out on huge opportunities, even if it's just to bounce ideas off of somebody.
Yeah, the creative process takes time and it takes collaboration.
Exactly. Think about Saturday Night Live, right? That's a show that goes on every single week. They've got a relentless schedule. They have about 10 to 20 writers in that writer's room bouncing ideas off of each other the whole week in order to come up with that script. You got to do the same thing. You got to find people, preferably talented people, funny people, creative people that you can bounce ideas off of and, kick the can down the road a few times before you come up with the best ideas. And that's my next point, is you've got to abandon a ton of concepts to get to the right one. Anyone who thinks that the first idea, as much as you may love it, it can always be better. And so, 100 may be a little high, but it gives you the idea of how many concepts you've got to go through until you arrive on the right one. We take a lot of time brainstorming, whiteboarding, going through a whole bunch of different ideas until we come to the one that we're going to invest our time and energy to create and, take to the scripting phase.
And would you say when you come to that one, you know it when you find it?
No. And that's, that's not my next one, but it's about testing it, right? So you got to find the customer that you want to speak to, and then you've got to pitch it to them, right? So you've got your brainstorm people, but then you've got your customers that you just got to test ideas off, and what feedback they give you will determine whether or not you have the right one.
There you go. Listen to the market.
Exactly. Yeah. But in order to do that, in order to get through 100 concepts, you may say, well, how am I going to do that? You got to give your brain space to relax. You got to, think, not be so stressed out. You got to give yourself time. I mean, people say the best ideas come to them in the shower, on the toilet, out in nature on a walk.
At night, you wake up in the middle of the night and you've got that idea.
Absolutely.
Keep a notepad close by.
Yes, that's a great point. Dreams. I literally dream ideas.
Nice.
When I start out, I've got kind of the concepts, and then I'll leave it a few days and it'll percolate and ideas will come, or how I can improve those ideas. So give your brain spaces to relax. Again, coming back to the first point, you've got to give yourself time. Seek inspiration in other people's work. I'm not saying copy. You've got to create something that's unique and different, not just because it's the right thing to do, but also because the internet feeds off of new stuff, right? You can't just regurgitate someone else's idea. It's not new and fresh. It won't get passed around. People pass around things that are surprising, entertaining, and you've got to have something that's unique. So seek inspiration in other people's work, but don't copy it. So back to your earlier question, once you've abandoned your 100 ideas or whatever, you'll probably come up with 3 to 5 that you really think are the right ones. Then you test it on the audience that is going to be the ones that are going to buy or be the responding to this campaign. And then you've got to kill your babies. It sounds horrible, but you'll fall in love with the best concept that you think is the best concept. But that doesn't mean it's the best concept for the customer. And so you've got to be willing to go with what the data says, go with the market, and take your pride and your ego out, kill your babies. You've got to seek patterns, but beware of opinions. And what I mean by that is, let's say you come up with some great idea and your wife happens to be in the demographic. If your wife really hates the idea, but 10 other people love it, you can't take individual opinions. You got to look at patterns over time, right? If in a perfect world, you do everything in a statistically significant population, we can't always get into the, tens, hundreds, thousands of people that we test things off of, but test on as many people as you can. Seek patterns, beware of opinions. Okay, that's a lot of information on brainstorming. Really quick, I'm going to fly through these examples. So you could decide that you brainstorm an idea, and the host of your video is going to be a funny, relatable character, right? Whatever that means. However, whatever your product is, think about a character that would relate to your audience, right? So if your customer is always, stubbing their toe, metaphorically speaking, and you show scenarios where that funny character is stubbing their toe, they're going to relate to that. You could create a credible brand ambassador. whatever that is in your industry, right? Somebody that obviously would be an expert in this world. There are all sorts of fun ideas you can create around it. Create a fun caricature. Go over the top. Make it obvious that you're making fun of this person, but create these caricatures that people will laugh at, relate to, but again, still tell that story and further the message. You can create a fun music video. We have had actually a couple of really successful videos that have gone into, I think, almost 6 million views between the two videos that we did, where we basically did a parody on a music video that has already been done. We changed up the words, changed up the music, did everything custom so that we wouldn't get sued. But there's a lot of videos out there right now that have got very, very successful with using music videos. You could do a funny reality experiment. You know, think about shows like Punk'd and, you know, just some really funny things that you could do in a reality-based environment that's not scripted, and you can capture some really funny things. You could do a funny extreme demonstration. One that comes to mind is Fiberfix, when they taped up that car and threw it off a cliff and it's held together because the Fiberfix was that strong.
Yeah, Flex Seal did one where they tape up a boat. The guys are sailing out there in the lake and it doesn't leak.
Exactly. Those are the kinds of things. It's over the top. Nobody would ever want to do it, but if it could do that, then surely it can solve my problem that's not quite as big. Or you could decide to completely go the opposite of funny. We recently did a project where we were told it was a skin cream, and we were told, we don't want to do funny. We want people to cry when they watch this video. And guess what? We did it. So you can completely pivot and go the other way. The key is evoke emotion, right? That's when you can connect with people. Boring videos don't emote.
And boring videos don't go viral. Emotional connection to the video makes an emotional connection to the product, and that goes viral. Yep. Then they want to share with their friends. They want to look at this because Absolutely. It made them feel something.
Yep. Boring is risky. Okay, so let's move on to the scripting phase. Once we've decided what our high-level concept, and a concept is just simply something that you can write in the back of a napkin and say, this is what the video is going to be about. You're not worried about how you're going to sell it or what the jokes are or anything like that. You're just saying, what's the overall story, right? So then on the scripting, you've got to get into your mind that you need 3 writers. And it's very, very hard to skip past this step. If you don't have 3 writers, the rest of what I'm going to explain won't be as effective. You need a marketer, and that may be you. That's probably the least skilled in terms of writing, but you've got to know what it is that you're going to include in the script that have to be in there to sell your product, right? So most of you, maybe you're an agency, but most of you are, probably business owners or executives. You already know what the key selling points are, so you can fill that first role. But you need a marketer that's going to write the marketing copy. You need a creative writer that's going to create the story around that marketing copy and bring that brand character to life, or whoever the brainstorming came at, whatever the concept is that came out of the brainstorming. And then you need a comedian to bring in the jokes and make it funny. In the best case scenario, multiple comedians. Again, back to the Saturday Night Live example, where they have a whole bunch of them.
And would you say it's ideal for these 3 to be working together or in sequence?
So we do both. We have freelancers that work for us, or we have people that get in the same room together. So in an ideal world, physically together, but I see no issues with having freelancers that are writing independent. But what you don't want to do is go through the whole process and then bring in the comedian at the end. Because he may have a great idea at the very beginning that will inform the creative writer, right? So collaboration. We typically use Dropbox paper so that we can online, all 3 of us are connected and we're seeing what each other's doing, emails us when it's being updated. And what I would like you to take away from this is you got to start with the bookends. Those are the most important parts of your video. The beginning, because if nobody watches past the first 5 seconds, nobody's going to see anything.
We all see those skip buttons and we're used to using them by default.
Yes, you got to have a big grabber. In the infomercial world, which is my background, our very first client, I mentioned earlier, was Little Giant Ladders. We've done many infomercials since. They called it the 30-second grabber. If within the first 30 seconds, people are not hooked, they're flipping on to the next channel. In the online world, it's much shorter because of that
5 seconds.
because of that 5-second skip button.
Exactly.
So you've got to come up with a great opener, and then you've also got to come up with a great offer. So that's the CTA, the call to action. What is it that you want them to do? How do you tell them to do it? How do you make it so simple and seem like a no-brainer? Then you got to have your marketing writer sit down and list out all those sales points I mentioned earlier. What is it that you have to include to make the person realize this is something I want? Now, I caution you, most marketers will say, well, our product is the best in the world because of, let me pull out this fact sheet and, there's a million reasons why we're so good. You want to keep this video as short as possible without skipping story, entertainment, and the key points that you need to sell. So a lot of people will say, well, I need a 30-second video. That's not enough. You gotta build a story, you gotta create something, and then interject those marketing copy points. People won't get bored of your video if it's interesting, entertaining, and it keeps them engaged. They'll get bored if it's boring. So most of our videos, we shoot for around 3 minutes, which sounds long. We also do shorter versions and test them, but the hero version is about 3 minutes long. So again, write all of your marketing copy points and make sure that you're saying everything you need to without saying any more. And then again, work out your call to action. What is it that you are offering? And a lot of our clients, we push them really hard, lower that barrier to entry. So for example, we recently did a video for an energy shop that's owned by Russell Brunson, one of the best marketers in the world. And immediately he knew that the best way to get people to engage was to give the product away, right? So we do a free plus shipping. So if there's a way that you can give your product away without losing money, so make it up in the shipping, or maybe a much lower barrier to entry or a free trial, even if you do lose money, sometimes that's worth it for the lifetime value of a client. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. So once you've written out your marketing copy, you got to hand off to the creative writer who's going to build the story. And this is what I call the unfunny, funny version. And what I mean by that is it's creative and it is funny, but there's not really many jokes in it yet. It's just a great story that gets your attention, that tells the story, that most importantly positions your product or service as the hero of the show that your customers then going to benefit from. Then you test for understanding. So just like I said earlier, you've got to surround yourself with that focus group, those people that are in your target demographic, and you got to have them read the script and parrot it back to you, which basically means read this, or in best case scenario, I would pitch it to them because that's as close as what the video experience is going to be. People don't read a video, they hear it. And then ask them, did you understand this? Or what did you understand about that? Or why is this? So that
if they explain it back to you well enough, then they've understood.
Exactly. And then look for buying signals, right? Questions like, where can I buy it? Or when is it available? Or how much is it? If you get buying signals, then you know that you're onto something. Then you hand off to the comedian. Once you've gone through iterations after getting the feedback from the focus groups, hand off to your comedian to really spend some time injecting that humor. And what you want to try to do is keep them laughing from beginning to end. So however long, and again, this is all done in focus groups, so testing when people look like they're getting bored, and you can even do some testing online and see metrics of when people click away. There's ways to do that without doing a big launch, but you got to keep people laughing throughout the whole thing in order to keep their attention, to get them to absorb the sales information. And we typically say about 90% of it should be entertaining and about 10% of it should be sales. So that's kind of a paradigm shift. Most marketers are like, no, I want to sell, sell, sell. Nobody will stick around if you're just regurgitating copy points and sales points. Okay, test for frequent laughs. We already said that. And again, look for buying signals. When you're reading the final script to these people, if they're not laughing, the cash register's not ringing. It's as simple as that. If you've got a dud, no amount of great filming or editing is going to make a bad script good, right? That it just doesn't happen. You got to start with a script and some funny material that makes people laugh. And I can't stress enough, don't go to the next step unless the average person, one or two that don't laugh, you may get some people that just, they're boring people. That's why I say, look for patterns, not opinions, right? So, and then rewrite. Spend a lot of time here. We typically go through up to 50 drafts.
Wow.
On a typical script. I mean, it's a long process. We're birthing a baby here. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Okay, so once you think I've done everything I can, you get to what we call the point of no return. And this will keep you up at night sometimes, because if you do it right, you're about to spend quite a bit of money to film it, to hire the actors, to get the locations, build the props, whatever it is that you're doing. You're about to spend a lot of money, and you got to make sure that you're ready. So are you ready? If people aren't laughing, if people aren't enjoying the script, go back, do it again. But at the same time, don't get stuck in what I call analysis paralysis, right? Version 1 is better than version none. Don't go for 3 years trying to create the best script that you can do, because you've just lost 3 years worth of potential sales. So I can't tell you when the point is between, the script's not good enough and, you got to actually do something. Only you will know, but make sure you think carefully before you proceed to the shoot. Okay, so this is my favorite part of the process. I love the shoot. You've got to remember though, before you roll a single second of film, nail your casting. Auditioning is so important. It's so important to get the right people in the right roles. I cannot tell you how many times over the past close to 20 years, we've left or we've been hired by a company and they've been in charge of doing the rehearsing and the auditioning, and we get there and I'm like, I may be directing this, but I can't work with this person. They don't have what it takes. They don't have the charisma. You got to make sure you nail that casting. And that only comes by auditioning multiple people. The other thing, here's another tip. Your script will get better from the ideas of other people as they portray your roles. So I love to bring people in and say, okay, these are the lines. You've memorized them for your audition. Give me the lines, have them go through it. Then I'll kind of improv with them and see if they give me any extra nuggets. And you'd be amazed at how many actors that do this all day long are very good at improv. And they'll give you extra ideas that you didn't think of. So that's just an extra bonus. Okay, next thing is you have to have a producer that sweats the details. What I mean by that is a producer is basically a project manager, right? He's the person who organizes everything from the shoot dates to the crew to the locations, orders the props, the wardrobe, make sure the makeup artist arrives. Everyone has their date, everyone knows the addresses, has a call sheet with everyone's cell phones.
You're making me overwhelmed with all this.
If any one of those details goes wrong, you're going to be stuck on set with a lot of money ticking away by the hour with all the crew and everything that's going on. One prop can derail the whole video. I've seen that time and time again. When we get on set and somebody hasn't brought a prop, we can't shoot the video. Or I've had it where we've turned up to a set and one actor was given the wrong directions and they turned up way too late and we ran out of time. I mean, you gotta have a producer that sweats the details. And these days, Amazon is your best friend, because think about how did people buy props before, these random things. Nowadays, you just get on Amazon and order them. But again, Amazon is not absolute. Even when it says guaranteed delivery, I've had props not show up. So you want to have a plan A and a plan B, because if Amazon says it's going to be delivered at 9 a.m. on the morning of the shoot, you're treading on thin ice, my friend. Okay, have fun. This is so important when you're shooting comedy. You can't get on set and be this big dictator and expect to have people that just turn it on when the camera rolls. You got to create positive energy, and that starts with respecting actors. You know, having great food on set, having, you know, everyone's laughing and joking and enjoying the moment. If you try to be, you know, this hard and fast dictator, and, you know, you don't treat actors well when they screw up on a line, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You've got to try to create a great shooting environment, and also respect the locations. They will never let you back if you ruin the location. And also, you know, we've had experiences where people are so appreciative that our crew has come and, you know, cleaned up after themselves, leave things better than you find them, because number one, you'll be able to go back there and shoot there again. Number two, you're just helping the next crew that comes along to have somebody that says yes. Okay, so important in these kinds of videos, you've got to shoot at least 4K. I mean, these days, you know, Red can shoot 8K and above. 4K is a minimum for shooting coverage, because when you shoot 4K, you may have a line that you want to chop this part out and put this part in, or an actor may improv and you want to use it. But if you're just shooting 1080p, you're going to have to jump cut that thing, and it's going to be abrupt. Whereas if you have 4K, you can punch in from a wide shot to a close-up. Nobody's any of the wiser. It gives you so many more options in the editing process that we'll get to next that you just can't do when you shoot 1080. I mean, most of you probably are already shooting in 4K, so this is redundant, but if you're not, get into the 21st century. Shoot multiple options of lines. I have never, and we'll get to this, I've never written a script, gone and filmed the script, and edited the script, and have it be the same as it was on the page. Things always change on the shoot. When we call out, you know, when we hear a line, it's different than when we write a line, and so it might not sound right. So we always have our actors, give me another version of that line. Say it like this, or, you know, we may come up with a completely different idea on set. Shoot a whole bunch of stuff so that you have options in editing. When it comes to the grabber and the CTA, film different kinds of those. Companies like Chad will love you if you give them 3 different options for the very first opener so that he can test them.
We'll A/B test those against each other. The top performing one will win. Yeah.
Exactly. Same with the call to action, right? If 1999 performs twice as good as 24.99, it's probably worth going with the 19.99 offer.
Yeah, it's a common theme. You'll hear us talk about it all throughout this first video about how to create the funny sales video, as well as the second part of the webinar, how to market these. Test, test, test. You're going to be constantly refining. You're going to test, you're going to analyze, and you're going to pivot your ideas all throughout this whole process.
And the amount of money that you're spending on that shoot day, it doesn't cost you anything extra to just have that actress say, okay, now say it $29.99. Okay, now say it $30.99. Whereas in the future, if you decide you want to change it, the cost of bringing everyone back and building the sets again, whatever it is, while you have them there, doesn't cost you extra. Just shoot a whole bunch of different options when it comes to the coverage, the grabber, which is the intro, and then the call to action, which is basically when you're asking them to act, pricing and other things that you want them to do. Okay, shoot it right, shoot it once, get results. I cannot tell you how many times I've had companies, marketing directors, business owners call me up and say, we had this great script, we cheaped out on hiring a production crew. It was a guy that just finished college. We thought he knew what he was doing. He had a nice looking camera. You got to get people who know what they're doing. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're watching this just for the ideas and I'm preaching to the choir. But the reason why ads get noticed these days and shared, these kinds of ads, is because they're well produced. People can immediately tell if you have somebody who knows. You know, you can't even verbalize it, you just know it when you see it, right? And then finally, and this surprised you when I told you this earlier.
This is new to me.
Good audio beats good picture every time. Now you're talking to a guy who, I kind of am a cinephile. I love cameras. I love technology. I love buying the very best cameras. But test after test has shown an audience will forgive a bad picture much quicker than they'll forgive a bad audio track. There's a reason why the Blair Witch Project was still a successful video or a successful movie, even though it was a terrible
all over
image,
the place, yeah.
had good sound. And especially when you're dealing with marketing, when you've got to communicate a message, people need to be able to hear it. So invest in good audio. Okay, so that brings us to my last slide, which is editing. Editing is probably the most important part of the process, because everything up until that point needs to be crafted, needs to be shaped, needs to be brought to life, and that happens in the edit bay. But you've got to be willing to throw out everything that you've done. If you get into the edit bay, whether it's you or an editor that you're hiring or a production company and you're sitting over their shoulder, you've got to be willing to say, okay, we may have scripted this, but during the filming, it didn't work. And in editing, you just got to cut out anything that doesn't work, but be open to re-edit things that work so much better. Like I said earlier, we've never had a video that was delivered the way that it was scripted. In most cases, if you do that, you're missing out, because you should be part of the creative process of shooting better stuff than you scripted and editing better stuff than you shot. So everyone is adding to the process, right? So you got to be willing to go with what's best, not with what's in your mind. And if things are working in the edit, great. If they're not, you've got to kill them. You've got to delete them. You've got to move on.
You got to get over your ego in some of these cases.
Yes, absolutely. You may have got up at 3 a.m. to film some beautiful shot. The audience doesn't care. You have to be willing to sacrifice everything for the sake of the final product, which is results. Okay, if you're editing this or you have an editor that you've hired to edit this, you've got to have a great sense of timing, right? With comedy, you've heard it a million times. Timing is everything. Hopefully you've got an editor who has edited comedy before. If not, this sounds weird, but they at least need to be a musician. What I mean by that is when you listen to music, you know immediately if the beat's off. And a musician has a timing sensibility that translates to comedy. So you've got to have a sensibility to timing.
Would you say one of the key tips on the timing for comedy when you're in the edit room is to err on the side of shorter,
Yes.
quicker, everything faster?
Yep.
Because we can hear things and understand things and a lot faster than people can say them.
And that, I think, goes to my next
did I
point.
just
Yes,
jump
it
in?
does. Okay, so edit with a remote control in mind. And what do I mean by that? This is the internet. Nobody has a remote control. So I've been doing this for close to 20 years. When I started, our whole focus was infomercials. And we would edit with the remote control in mind, meaning I knew that nobody had an appointment to watch an infomercial. They hadn't come to a movie theater. They hadn't turned on the TV because their program that they love every week is watching. They're literally skipping through channels because they're bored and they stumble across my infomercial. And I have to know that that remote control is still in their hand and I have to keep them engaged. So if there's anything in my infomercial, and in these days it translates to online even more because people have such a short attention span, I gotta know that if I'm not interesting them, educating them, making them laugh, making them cry, making them want the product that we're selling, telling them a story, and that's the key word. It's all about telling stories. The difference between the old kinds of videos that we produced and the videos that we love to produce now is we build and tell stories. So if you're not telling a story, if you're not keeping them engaged, they're gonna flip that remote control. So as I'm editing, literally second by second, I'm saying, am I losing anyone to the remote control? Am I losing anyone to the click? You got to have that mindset every second. It doesn't matter how beautiful the footage is or how you like it. It matters, will the target audience have the attention span to watch it?
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's not enough to have called out the right pain point in the first 5 seconds. That will keep them for another few seconds, but if they're not entertained and educated throughout, they're going to click off.
Absolutely. Think goldfish. You're talking to an audience of goldfish. They have a memory that's almost non-existent. So that's why you got to shoot in 4K, because you got to cut. Literally any second that I can take out, I'll just cut from a wide shot to a close-up. Or, you know, if I feel like it's dragging, I'll just cut the whole scene out. There's ways that you can edit that are so much more forgiving if you're shooting with larger format footage, because you can pretend that you just cut to a different camera. I also, I don't know if this is another bullet, yes, I speed up everything except the key points. So literally, if there's somebody who's talking and they take a second to take a breath, I'll speed up that breath. Like literally just to take out that possibility of somebody getting bored. If somebody's walking from A to B and I think it's boring, I'll speed it up. They'll click away if you don't keep them engaged all the time. So literally just speed everything up except the main dialogue parts. Avoid music. Now sometimes that's a contradiction where I said earlier do a music video. That in that world it wouldn't apply. But if I'm telling you something and I want you to hear it and I want you to buy it, and there's a background track in the background drowning me out, that doesn't do anyone any good. People say, well, we'll make it more exciting if we had this upbeat music. And in some cases, maybe, but mostly with these kinds of sales videos, your message is the most important thing. And if you don't communicate well, then that's going to be, you know, you're going to have lower effects than if you avoid the music.
Sometimes people do use music as a crutch when their script isn't holding the attention.
Yes. So again, go back to the scripting. Make sure it's ready before you proceed. Use sound effects to emphasize points, right? Because, you know, I'm saying this as a talking head for 30 minutes, but most of the time people, you know, they need to be re-engaged. And so throwing in sound effects to emphasize key points, do that all the time. Again, coming back to this idea of kill your babies. Doesn't matter if the shot was beautifully crafted and the lighting's just right, and you know you spent a whole bunch of money on the gimbal that you used in the shot. You're making money, not art. Nobody cares about your cinematography or your, you know, special skills. All they care about is, are you engaging me? Are you keeping me interested? Are you making me laugh? And do you have something that I want? And if you can keep that mind frame that you're making money, not art, you'll go a long way. Okay, and then focus groups. You got to do a focus group after every major edit, right? So after the very first edit, and Martin Scorsese said in his masterclass, if you don't want to throw up after your first edit, you're doing something wrong. And I love that because it makes me feel better. But the first edit is just the first edit. You got to show a whole bunch of people. You got to get feedback, and then you got to edit again. Then hold another focus group. Focus group could be a big one. It could literally be the people in your office, or hopefully the people that are going to be in your target demographic. But focus, edit, focus, edit. And we typically go through easily 50 edits. Now we don't do a focus group between each one, but you know, if I look at our files, we've got 50 different versions of each of our edits. So if you're not continually improving, you're leaving opportunity on the table that could help with the conversions. And then again, when you finished your video, you want to do different versions. So, you know, I typically would like to see 3 openers that you can ABC test, and then 3 different offers that you can ABC test to tell us what's grabbing them, what's keeping their attention, and then more importantly, what's converting them to the sale or the lead. So,
and we love that as marketers.
Yes.
We love having those different versions, those options to work with.
Yep. So if you've gone through those 5 stages, typically we would take anywhere from 3 to 6 months to do that. And you know, some clients hear that and they're like, no way, I don't have the attention or the patience for that. And sure, we do other kinds of videos that are much quicker than that, but they don't get the TLC that these kinds of videos get, and they don't get the results that these kinds of videos get. Yeah. The videos that I showed you earlier that got hundreds of millions of views, they went through all of these steps and it took them a long time. You can see it on the screen. They've invested time, they've invested money. So once you get to that step, when you got that final edit, you've got your videos that are ready to start promoting. But I got bad news for you, followed by good news. Okay, so the bad news is that pretty much every video that you've ever seen that you thought was a viral video wasn't. And when
Not
I
in
say
the beginning, yeah.
when I say viral, I'm talking about what?
Well, maybe 1 in a million videos just happens to go viral without an intention
Right.
and some ad spend in the beginning and a very strategic marketing plan to kick it off.
Right.
It's very rare that that happens organically without that marketing spend and strategy behind
And there's a difference between viral videos and conversion videos that are marketing and specifically set up to sell a product, right? You may get a video that goes to 1 billion views and it's either a music video or a cat video. It's not selling something. So pretty much every video that you've ever seen that's selling something, those tens of millions of views were engineered, not just spontaneously created, right? So that's what we're going to talk about in our next video, is how you basically create a machine. The bad news is you can't just make a video, put it out there, and hope it goes viral.
Right.
The reason that's actually good news is because if you did, then it would just be a flash in the pan. It would be like striking lightning. You wouldn't be able to control it, and you'd never be able to repeat it because of the nature. But the good news...
Yeah, the good news is we're going to teach you a formula, how to jumpstart these. Now, you've already learned the formula. What's the recipe involved in creating the video that can go viral? But how do we now jumpstart it? How do we prepare ourselves to convert the viewers that watch this video into sales, into revenue? And how do we jumpstart it to get it to start going viral?
Right, because you do want some percentage of your views to be organic, to be free.
Exactly.
But you can't expect all of them. And so what we're going to teach you is basically how to make a money-making machine, right? So if I spend $1 on advertising, if I've got this killer video and I'm spending $1 on advertising and I'm getting $3 in return, how many times are you going to do that all day? As many times as you can,
you
right?
find as many channels everywhere on the internet you could do
Exactly.
to drive those views, because you know the return on your investment on your marketing spend is always going to come back
Right.
multiple times over.
And what we've seen is we've had clients that have come to us and say, you know, I'm spending money on Instagram, I'm spending money on Facebook, and I'm getting, 1.5x ROI. And we say, well, let's produce a video and let's kick that thing on overdrive. And we've literally had people that have doubled, tripled, quadrupled their results. Same ad spend. Instead of putting some ad on that media channel, you're presenting them with an entertainment opportunity to watch this video, engage with the brand, connect with the brand, and then the results just, that they follow. So that's the end of our first half of the presentation. So just quickly to summarize, what we do, what we need to produce a video, and what I would recommend you need to produce a video, is a team for brainstorming, right? You need 3 skilled writers. You need a producer with attention to detail. You need a target audience that you can use as a focus group. Now, sometimes, in person is great, but sometimes you can buy this. SurveyMonkey and those kinds of online services, you can tap into that. You need a creative director and a director. Sometimes you can merge those roles. That's the person that's overseeing the vision of the project from beginning to end. You've got your camera crew, however large or small. And again, this is all depending on your budget. You got your hair and makeup, you got wardrobe, then you've got your editor, your effects, and your sound engineer. So it takes a village, right? There are people that try to do this on a very small crew, but the big results come when you invest in the right team to get this done. And so, we typically say you need at least 10 to 20 people on your team to pull one of these things off. And it's over 500 hours of solid, hard work. So if you're up for the challenge, the results are huge. But it's a significant amount of resources that you're going to need to put behind it. And then obviously, the cost of wardrobe, actors, props, locations, equipment rental. It's a big undertaking, but the results for some of our clients that have done it right, again, you're one great video away from transforming your business. So, as a part of watching this training, if you'd like to engage with our team, we're offering a free 30-minute coaching call. On that call, we can come up with some ideas. We can give you some ideas of what you could do, whether you decide to do it on your own, whether you decide to hire another company to do it, or whether you decide to hire us to do it. We'd love to help. Take advantage of that. Reach out to us. Our contact information is below. My website is funnysalesvideos.com. That's where you can see all the examples of the projects that we've worked on.
Yeah, there'll be links to my website also, just below the video.
Okay, so this has been episode 1 of 2 of the training series for how to make a video go viral. I hope this has been useful to you. Like I said, listen to it again and again, and we'll be back in episode 2, and you'll hear a lot more from Chad and a lot less from me.
That sounds good.